So, hey, we're back here with Andrea, Amy, and Bernardo to talk about the bridge. This is the second part where we'll focus a little more about production. You can also hear our first part uh, on some connected link to this file somewhere. And this time, we'll talk a little about a few things like the animation, the craft of animation, and also changing and transforming what we had as an idea to an actual movie. So, guys, I have to ask this, even though it's a bit corny, but how was to work with Lightfarm in this project from a creative director's point of view? Because I am Rafael, director of Lightfarm, but I'm not always there. And I know that we have a big team trying to give value to you guys, trying to make sure that we find the best techniques and decide on the best tools to make it happen. So, being creative directors yourselves, how did you feel exchanging with Lightfarm?
No, it's always amazing, and that because it comes from a trustworthy relationship, and I think that comes back to whoever heard the first part of it. But it's always great, but it all comes down to trusting the vendor and trusting the partnership, right? Between me, Andrea, and Amy, we always talk about how we have to start with a vision, and then the vendor is going to amplify. It's going to, boost our vision and make the most out of it. So I think it was a very rich partnership because I think you guys were able to really understand where we were coming from, and we always repeated how important for us
Mm.
was that we could uh, beautifully dissect and bring to life what was happening inside of the man and the dog.
Mhm.
That's why I think, usually when you look at your amazing breadth of work, Rafa, your teams have done, amazing work in gaming, in motion, in AR, in digital, and everything. And but most of the work were not scary. So I think, the opportunity for us was to, how can we get Light Farm to be in an uncomfortable place,
Mhm.
but knowing you would get there and you would deliver. We thought to ourselves, oh my God, I think when we align on something that we really think is going to be able to bring their internal battles to the external light, is going to be something special. So I think this process was great, and I think the more we talked about it, the more excited we got to be in a place that neither us, neither Life Farm has ever seen or been before.
I
Yeah.
think I think we discovered that together, right? I'll lead it to you, Andrea. But just one thing, I think Light Farm has at its core that styles are briefing. So you can literally emulate anything when you're talking about CGI professionals. Like they can do any styles, and even things that are not in the comfort zone. Because like you said yourself, I think this project on its own was something new that we hadn't had a chance to do before as in art style. But that's not something that scares us. It actually motivates us to find a good translation to it. So I'm happy it worked out this way because we're always trying to say like, hey, how can we use that? How can we depict that image in a way that will hit the spot, telling the feeling that you want to say? You go, Andrew.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I think one of my most favorite parts of the production process after we briefed you and the team on our vision was one of the very first meetings that we had. And Rafa, you took us through a variety of exploration that was done based on our character vision, the swipes that we sent, the Tim Burton references that was created with AI. And
I have
I
them here.
Yes, I love
Look,
it. Yes. And this was probably one of my favorite uses of AI that I've seen in the industry because we're using it to inspire visual thinking versus, a final output. So we had spoken to you about this unsettled look and feel, this Tim Burton-esque, these weird characters, and we just spent like a good proportion of an hour talking through the tons of different variations that the output gave your team. And I think that for me, it took like the images that I had in my mind, made them real, and helped us have such a productive conversation about where we wanted the art direction and character development to go. That was just something that the Life Farm team brought to the table in a truly unique way. And I think that overall helped further push the vision that we had originally came up with.
outstanding. And guys, this is something really big to us. I think it's a nice place to state it because things are shifting a lot. Like in the universe of digital art, a lot of people are scared. They don't know where things are headed in the sense that, is my job going to an end? Is it my time? And this is faster than we anticipated. But there's also another way to look at it where you get to see artists empowered by this tool in a way that they can, get more visions out. They can iterate more. They can, instead of researching for references, they create their own references. So it's really powerful on its own. And I think the big crack there is, okay, you can create a lot of things, but people are scared of losing their jobs. In Lightfarm, I don't see this happening because of AI in any reason. Because for me, there's always somebody doing the prompt work. There's always somebody picking what makes sense. It never comes out ready. And even if it did, it doesn't mean like it's good enough for approval. So
Mhm.
it's more like getting our artists to do more with it. And it's really from a starting point of view. Because when you start with something that you already have some sort of consensus, even if it's not what you want, like we have some prompts and you look at it and you're like, nah, no, this doesn't work. This is very valuable. Because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, we're trying to get in your heads and depict the styles you want to communicate. So people need to talk more about the ethics in AI generated content. Because if we figure this right, I think it's going to empower artists, but it's not to be taken lightly. It's definitely a big shift in the industry. And, I think we have to look at it this way.
Mhm.
Bernardo, you want to say something?
Yeah, and by the way, again, I think you guys have never used anything even close
No.
to the exploration. The beauty of it, I think, was the fact that we used that, as a way to try to understand if we were closer or farther away from our point of view. And and
Yep.
I think kudos to Andrea, because I think visually, I think she was the one that cracked that. I think she had something so solid in her mind, and found some swipes that altogether were enough to be able to get you guys also to understand and be excited about that. And AI was just a way to gather all that thoughts, put together, and from there you started again with
Yeah.
your artists, with your amazing talents, to be able to pinpoint what was right and what was not, but something that the machine wouldn't be able to do.
Mhm.
Look, that's funny. Like the machines are helping us communicate then. Because what it's
Mhm.
doing here is just exploring ideas that are helping us say like, hey, we have the same thoughts, let's make this
Mhm.
happen. And something that I thought was really interesting was that our main character, we've got a new artwork for it, like as in concept art based off what we liked in the mood of the prompt. But then there was something about his head that you were able to say, Bernardo, like, hey, but there's something particular about this head that I really love. And we implemented back, we were calling this prompt the gentle giant. and there was something very emotive about him. And we got into this prompt, and for an artist, I don't think there's better feedback than this, because
Mm.
you're pinpointing, right? And in the creative business, sometimes things get lost in translation. So I think it really empowers us to get to the point and make sure that we're dead on what we want to create. Super cool. Awesome. It's great to talk about AI. I'm very enthusiastic about it and kind of scared about it too, because truly we don't know what's going to happen, but
Mm.
we need to stay close. Guys, okay, changing subjects a little bit. This movie is gotten a very interesting mix of 3D and 2D. Because you guys know, right? When we're in production, we always have constraints such as budgets or time frames. And when you guys had this proposal, we're like, hey, how we're doing this thing? We knew that you guys had a nice vision. You wanted it to be big, but how to make it fit, right? So are we simulating everything? There are many choices that can lead us to extenuate the budget. What do you guys think about the solution that was brought in the end? Like, did you guys feel like this was a good way to tell the story? Um, do you feel like the solution to mix up 3D and 2D was something cool? Because I think this is kind of fashionable now with some movies like Spider-Verse, or they kind of opened up for this type of mixture. So was it something that you guys chased, or it was more like a good solution for a problem?
So, I want to just quickly point out that I think craft always needs to serve the story. And by the way, we have the best screenwriter in the world here with us, Amy Fortunato. Yes, she's a screenwriter. She's not only one of the best copy creative directors in the world, and she was the one that actually found the solution to really use color to pinpoint the emotional beats of the film. And I think when we got there, it was a lot easier than to try to understand the ways that the story would behave from a color perspective, but also from a volume perspective. These characters, they have more depth because they are in the center of the narrative. They were written by Amy in a way that we can understand more. The city for them was flat. Everything else was flat because that's how they felt. They felt that everything around them, it wasn't enough. It wasn't like something that they could really enjoy and be surrounded by. So I think, again, every single decision on the craft needs to serve the story. So like in this case, I think the 3D and 2D aspect was perfect because, again, it helped the narrative.
Outstanding. I think it works two ways, man, because I think you're absolutely correct. Narrative has to be contemplated, but it's also something that makes it possible. Because the way we develop the movie, like if we had to build everything as 3D assets, it would be a lot more trouble to do so in the same time frame. And it's just like it's form and function. It did work both ways. So this is really cool. Would you like to add anything, Amy, about styles? Like how did you feel about the way the movie developed, like visually?
Yeah, I think we all wanted to utilize amazing craft to tell a story about mental and animal health. So we really relied on color as a metaphor. We start the film with the blues and the grays to really illustrate this sadness, this loneliness, this depression, and then the color transformation that took place, the bright orange, that we felt more hopeful as their bond grew. The world started to transform, and again, without using dialogue, the craft really told that story for us in such an impactful way. And just the animation style where, we've, sort of more of the scribble textures, more of the gritty look and feel. Even the New York that we created told a story, right? Like it was sort of more Gothic inspired angles and unusual proportions because we wanted to convey the feeling within this world. And Lightfarm brought that to life in such a memorable and impactful way. Like that has never been done before. And I think to use, the styles that you guys chose and bring that to life, the craft itself told a story. The animation told a story. And I think that is the beauty of great craft when there's a concept behind it. It wasn't just craft for the sake of craft. It was craft because it was telling the audience something. And I think that's when anybody could relate to a film or engage with a film, regardless of culture or language you're speaking or where you live, that style made everybody feel something. And I think that's why it was so successful. And, you guys brought that to the table. And I think that's, part of the beauty of working with Lightfarm, and you guys are masters of your craft.
That's so appreciated. And guys, all the team, they truly look at this. So we really like to share information. So when Lightfarm is creating, the boards that we go through are the same boards that the team is looking at. And, people get comments on. We try to make as many synergies as possible. So for the bridge, we had a particular parts like where we started to work on how does it look like? And then we're like, hey, but what is the script? Let's fine tune this. And then there's, okay, so let's create the 3D characters and let's paint the background. Each of those steps are made by a team who's looking at the brief and, going for idealizations. So I think we can use this to tell that story in a nice way. And when you do it, like you can share information more freely with people, you end up with so many nice happy accidents. So, we built this movie as 3D characters, illustrated backgrounds, and then above all, we also had 2D animations, such as rain, little details like leaf. There was pedestrians on the street that kind of like, sent the dog away a little bit. And all of this was done as in another style and another look. So it only gets better because you're overlaying creative work to enhance all those little details. So it's really cool. We really like to share information with the team and let the artwork speak for itself. Which leads me to my last question here on micromanaging. So Bernardo, you said that you guys usually like to have the idea and you send it away so people can create it and turn it into something nice. But of course, it's natural that we go exchanging information as it goes by, and we can guide things one way or another. Ourselves in Lightfarm, we are always kind of a little scared of micromanaging, because let's say if the animator sends me something for approval as a director, and I think, okay, this is cool, but everything could always be better. Do I even get feedback to say like, hey, can you fix that? Or do I let it go? When it comes down to your level, how do you guys see micromanaging? When do you guys see something that you're like, hey, I got to ask for a change, or that is not something that I truly love, but I think it's working in the context of the movie? Should I say or should I not say that? How do you guys deal with this type of emotions?
I think that goes back. I think that goes back to the whole aspect of trust, right? Like we are very trusting and honest with one another in terms of coming up with the idea, giving feedback to each other. And I think that the same goes for our relationship with the vendors that we're working with. I hope that, when you guys shot us up stuff that you wanted us to react to, the feedback that we were giving was very authentic, right? I would say pretty immediately, you knew whether we were all on the same page or we were not. And I think that going through this process together, the trust, the partnership, the friendship that we've had, for years and years and years, all of those things kind of built on one another. and had a hand in how successful that this project was, right? And I think that that's an important thing. As a creative team, you have to stay true to your original vision, respecting the production team's added value. But then the partnership is the push and the pull of, okay, we veered away from the initial in a good way or in a bad way, and how you kind of navigate that together.
That was really good because, I mean, I think every creative deals with this to a certain degree. What do you guys feel, Bernardo and Amy? How do you deal with like providing feedback?
Yeah, I mean, I think to reiterate Andrea's point, I think it's about just being honest and authentic with the story and in a respectful way. And I think that is something I think Klick and Lightfarm has done really well, especially in this project. It is a partnership. We had a vision, we had a story we wanted to tell, but when it comes to, creating the animation, we really relied on your vision as well, right? And your technical expertise to figure out how to create the vision that we wanted to bring to life. So it is a partnership. And I think everyone sort of comes into the process with their own sort of personal experiences and ideas. And the beauty of the creative process is the push and pull and the partnership and them all coming together to create the final product. So I think to Andrea's point, it's about, being true to your vision, but also, embracing the expertise of, an amazing group like Lightfarm.
Super cool.
And I think embracing discomfort and tough conversations as well. I remember I had a fight with Gabo. Gabo is one of the best, creative directors in the world, hands down, and I think we both were so passionate about it and so into it that we ended up having a very blunt discussion, but it led us to, such an amazing place. And this is what, trustworthy and amazing relationships, create, which is, greatness. If you think about the bridge now, and if you look back, the bridge won multiple Grand Prix. And I'm not saying Grand Prix in those pharma awards that I don't know the name. I'm talking about legit, worldly known shows. We got multiple golds at one show, multiple golds at Clio, Grand Prix at Klick Health, Grand Prix at LAAs, gold at Andes, like Lions, it's a film that, have been winning multiple movie film awards. That's why I love, Rafa, when you mentioned The Bridge as a movie, because that's what it is. And it won had just won, and I don't know if you know that, but but this is a good thing you learn now. It had just won Best Animation at an Oscar qualifying festival, which means that
Nice.
it will probably be going to the Oscar shortlist. So yeah, and that comes down to being uncomfortable and having those conversations, and that's why I think, especially for younger creatives, sure, you have to choose the best vendor in the world, but you have to start with a very clear vision, so you guys can combine visions and efforts and do things that had never been done before. And that's why AI will struggle in the next years, because humans, we want to see what surprises us, and AI is looking back, and humans, we are looking forward. We want to be surprised in an unexpected way, so that's what we bring to the table.
Wow. Guys, this is really cool. Like this, it's such a bliss to have this conversation and, see that all of these efforts put together are making the movie splash so many waves. So I think we're reaching the end. Thank you guys so much for all of your insights. It's amazing, and I hope we can do some more amazing work together. All right.
Same.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much, guys. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye.